Imagine a passenger jet built to challenge two of the biggest names in aviation, Boeing and Airbus. Now imagine that the only thing holding it back isn't its wings, its design, or even its technology. It's the engine beneath those wings. That is exactly where China believes it is about to change everything. For years, the COMAC C919 has relied on the Western-built CFM LEAP-1C engine. But behind the scenes, Chinese engineers have been developing something far more ambitious, the CJ1000A, China's first indigenous high-bypass turbofan engine for a modern commercial airliner. If this engine succeeds, it could become one of the most important milestones in China's aviation history. But can one new engine really change everything? Let's find out. To understand why this project matters so much, we first need to understand the C919 itself. Developed by COMAC, the C919 was designed to compete directly with the Boeing 737 MAX and the Airbus A320neo, the two aircraft that dominate the world's single-aisle market. With seating for around 158 to 192 passengers and modern fuel-efficient aerodynamics, the C919 represents China's first serious attempt to enter the global commercial aircraft industry. The aircraft has already entered commercial service with several Chinese airlines, proving that China can design and manufacture a modern passenger jet. However, one major dependency has remained. Every production C919 currently flies with the CFM LEAP-1C engine, built by CFM International, a joint venture between GE Aerospace and Safran. While the LEAP-1C is one of the world's most advanced commercial engines, relying on foreign technology creates strategic risks for China's long-term aviation ambitions. That is why the CJ1000A project is so important. Developed by the Aero Engine Corporation of China, AECC, the CJ1000A is designed to become the first fully Chinese engine capable of powering the C919. On paper, its performance targets are similar to the LEAP-1C, but its real significance goes far beyond technical specifications. If China successfully certifies this engine, it would gain control over one of the most valuable and complex technologies in commercial aviation, modern turbofan engine manufacturing. Designing a commercial jet engine is considered one of the hardest engineering challenges in the world. Engineers must build an engine capable of operating for thousands of hours under extreme temperatures and enormous pressure, while remaining fuel-efficient, reliable, and safe. Even countries with decades of aerospace experience have struggled to develop engines that meet modern certification standards. That explains why companies like GE Aerospace, Rolls-Royce, Pratt & Whitney, and Safran dominate this industry. For years, Chinese aerospace companies mastered aircraft structures, avionics, and manufacturing. But engines remained the country's biggest weakness. Developing the CJ1000A is therefore not simply about replacing one engine with another. It is about building an entirely domestic aerospace ecosystem capable of supporting future generations of commercial aircraft without relying on foreign suppliers. Progress has accelerated in recent years. Ground testing has expanded. Flight testing has reportedly continued using a modified Xi'an Y-20 test aircraft, and engineers have continued refining performance and reliability. Industry analysts now expect Chinese certification to begin around 2027 or 2028, although large-scale commercial production is generally expected closer to 2030. This timeline is important because many headlines create the impression that the CJ1000A is already flying on commercial C919 aircraft. That is not the current situation. As of 2026, production C919 aircraft continue using the imported LEAP-1C engine, while the Chinese engine remains under development and certification. Still, China's ambitions extend beyond simply replacing an engine. Officials have made it clear that increasing C-19 production and completing the CJ1000A are national priorities under the country's latest industrial plans. The objective is to reduce dependence on foreign aerospace technology, while expanding the C-19 production into a stronger competitor in both domestic and selected international markets. If successful, the impact could be enormous. Every C919 powered by a domestically produced engine would represent another step toward China's goal of creating a fully independent commercial aviation industry. Instead of importing one of the aircraft's most critical components, China would manufacture nearly the entire airplane at home. But building a powerful engine is only the beginning. The real challenge lies in proving that it can match decades of reliability established by the world's leading engine manufacturers. But building a domestic engine is only the first step. The real challenge is proving that it can match the reliability, efficiency, and safety standards set by companies like GE Aerospace, Safran, and Rolls-Royce over decades of commercial service. Every commercial jet engine must complete thousands of hours of ground testing, endurance trials, bird strike tests, icing evaluations, and flight testing before carrying passengers. Even after certification, airlines expect engines to operate reliably for years with minimal, unscheduled maintenance. That is why developing a modern turbofan engine is considered one of the most difficult engineering achievements in the aerospace industry. For China, however, the CJ1000A represents far more than a technical project. It represents independence. Today, every production C919 still depends on the CFM LEAP-1C engine. While the LEAP has proven itself as one of the world's best commercial engines, China understands that relying on foreign suppliers leaves its aviation industry vulnerable to export controls and geopolitical tensions. Building its own engine would give COMAC greater control over production, maintenance, and future aircraft development. Another reason this project is attracting worldwide attention is China's enormous domestic aviation market. Industry forecasts estimate that China will need thousands of new single-aisle aircraft over the next 2 decades. Even if the C919 initially sells mostly within China, that market alone could support large-scale production and help COMAC gain valuable operational experience before expanding internationally. However, there are still significant obstacles. The biggest is certification. Although reports suggest the CJ1000A has made substantial progress in testing, the engine has not yet entered widespread commercial service, and certification remains the most critical milestone. Until that process is complete, production C919 aircraft will continue flying with imported LEAP-1C engines. Industry experts also caution that certification is only the beginning. Manufacturers must then prove long-term reliability through years of airline operations. International certification presents another challenge. For the C919 to compete globally with the Boeing 737 MAX and Airbus A320neo, it will eventually need approvals from regulators such as the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, and potentially other international authorities. That process is expected to take several years, meaning COMAC's strongest market in the near future will likely remain China and selected countries that recognize Chinese certification. Even so, China's long-term strategy is becoming increasingly clear. Instead of trying to overtake Boeing and Airbus overnight, COMAC is gradually building every major part of its aviation ecosystem, from aircraft manufacturing and composite materials to engines, avionics, and maintenance capabilities. Each successful step reduces dependence on imported technology and strengthens China's position in commercial aviation. If the CJ1000A eventually enters service successfully, the impact could extend well beyond the C919. The experience gained from designing, testing, and certifying a modern commercial engine could support future aircraft programs, including larger, long-range airliners and next-generation propulsion systems. In other words, the CJ1000A is not just an engine, it is an investment in China's future aerospace industry. So, will China's huge C919 engine upgrade change everything? The Boeing 737 MAX and Airbus A320neo still dominate the global market, supported by decades of operational experience, worldwide maintenance networks, and thousands of aircraft already in service. But the CJ1000A changes something equally important. It changes China's level of technological independence. For the first time, China is moving closer to building a modern commercial airliner with an engine developed at home, rather than imported from abroad. That is a strategic milestone that aviation experts around the world are watching closely. Whether the CJ1000A ultimately becomes a global success will depend on certification, production quality, and years of reliable airline service. Those challenges cannot be solved overnight. Yet one thing is already certain. China is no longer satisfied with simply assembling commercial aircraft. It wants to design them, build them, power them with its own engines, and compete in one of the most advanced industries on Earth. And if the CJ1000A fulfills its promise, it won't just upgrade the COMAC C919. It could mark the beginning of a completely new chapter in global commercial aviation, one where China is no longer just a customer of the world's aerospace industry, but one of its major competitors.